But we do have one more thing. Oh my gosh, what is it? Is it foldable? Is it a car? Is Apple gonna make a plane? Is Apple gonna make an e-bike? No, introducing the first Apple product you look through but not at. And it is Apple Vision Pro. And it supports eyesight, so that it basically feels like you're looking right into my beautiful eyes. What are you doing, Tim? What is that? It's my way of staying connected with my virtual world and my real world. Okay, it's just, you look kind of crazy, and before I forget, make sure that your 2-hour battery can be fully unlocked through this battery pack that can stay in your pocket at all times. This is the future. This is where everything's headed, I guess. So, did I mention that this is only $3,500? I'm scared! After years and years of leaks and rumors, Apple has finally done it. They have entered the mixed reality headset space. It is no longer a speculation thing. This is real, and it's called Apple Vision Pro. Classic Apple figuring out what everybody wants to call it, like Apple Reality Pro. That's what all the leaks and rumors were pointing to, and maybe internally it was referred to as that, and then just at the last second, for marketing purposes, they go, everybody was wrong. It's actually Apple Vision Pro, not Reality Pro. And man, there is so much to talk about. We're gonna do a whole separate video on everything else that was announced at DubDub, but I decided there was so much to talk about today that I couldn't do everything recapped in a singular video, and most people want to talk about Apple Vision Pro because it's this brand new category. Yes, it comes with its own custom operating system called Vision OS. Thank God it's not XR OS. That was just a mouthful, and they got so many patents and things and trademarked for it, but no, Vision OS rolls off the tongue a lot easier. That's a lot more simple to understand. But I was very excited for this product, not because I wanted to buy it per se, and that's probably gonna be a lot of us given it's $3,500. All the rumors were pointing to it being $3,000, so they got that wrong as well. Of course, even $3,000 was being too generous, I suppose. But I was more interested in how Apple was going to market it. How did they want to pitch us this product? Brand new operating system, brand new product category that Apple's never really been present in before. How do they sell us on this? How do they make it seem like a good deal? And I will admit, it's quite bizarre. Definitely a lot less of a gaming emphasis than I thought. In my opinion, it feels like most of how they're pitching it is a pair of goggles that will basically put infinite TVs in as many places as you want. Yes, it's a lot more complicated than that, but there's tons of cameras and LiDAR sensors all over this thing that's able to allow you to look through the display, even though it's not technically transparent. The leaks about the displays were accurate. They're 4K resolution per eye, and there's this new technology called micro OLED, but surprisingly, a lot of the headset is mysterious on specs. Apple didn't go into the resolution or the refresh rate of those displays or the wattage that the headset pulls and what's included in the box. We don't know what the packaging looks like or if there's a travel case. There's still a lot of things we don't know, but I think today was just about introducing us to the product as a category. But most of the demos they had for it were showcasing a lot of like casual user type things, not a lot of developer use. It was like you can just have a TV in any room and you can adjust the size of the TV and you can look at pictures and check notes, and it doesn't have hand controllers or anything. It's just analyzing your hands essentially, and there's cameras on the bottom that are looking at the gestures you're making, and you basically don't have a cursor or anything or a controller to point and click on things. Now you just point at things and click based on you look at it with your eyes and then tap your pointer and thumb together, and that counts as a click. Definitely gonna be very weird trying to do that with a virtual keyboard. I thought they would have some kind of, typing with your fingers type thing on the keyboard on a flat surface, but they didn't demo that. It seems like something you just look at and tap, or of course you can dictate because it has microphones and even speakers built into the side, so they're not headphones. I'd be curious to how loud they are, like how much they bleed out to people around you, but yeah, apparently spatial audio, and they sound really, really great, and they're channeling noise directly into your ears, but you can still hear your surroundings because, again, they're not in-ear headphones or anything like that. They encourage people that, you can use them with existing AirPods in case you don't want the audio to be heard by everyone else around you. But yeah, this thing has an M2 chip on the inside of it, which honestly kind of surprised me because M2 chip is like a year old, and this thing is not shipping until next year. So why is the M2 chip shipping in this thing if 3nm architectures are right around the corner with better performance, better efficiency, which with this thing is really gonna matter? But they did introduce a new type of silicon called R1, one, and apparently that helps synchronize the video feeds of all the cameras that are stitching together reality for you and making sure that it doesn't cause motion sickness and that type of thing. So even though it's not running Mac OS, it has the same silicon as other Macs that run off of the M2 chip, of course, which means you can connect AirPods to it via Bluetooth, and you can even connect it to your Mac and use it as a giant external display, essentially. You can AirPlay to Apple Reality Pro, but I think the compromise is you're going to be looking at your Mac display in a virtual world, which is also part of that 4K display for each eye, but then it's going to take up a section of that virtual world. So I don't think it's going to be quite the same as just having a 4K external monitor. And as far as I can tell, there's no way to connect a data port to this headset. This is where the hardware gets really bizarre to me. So it has this little custom magnetic charging puck that connects onto the side, and I'm pretty sure just by looking at it that this is just for power. I don't think you can transmit data through this new proprietary Apple connector, which I'm sure the EU is going to love all this. But yeah, that one cable goes into this external battery pack that I guess you just put in your pocket. It's like an aluminum enclosure, but from close-ups we've seen from the Apple event where they were showing it off to everybody, you could see a USB-C port, I hope it's not lightning, on the side, and a way to remove that braided cable that goes up to the headset. But the fact that the battery pack itself has a separate USB-C port and then like a proprietary connector for the braided cable that goes up to the headset, it makes me think that that little power brick is probably the only way to power this headset. So that little battery bank lasts up to 2 hours if you're just watching a movie, so it might actually be worse. And then when your battery gets low, I believe you'd either have to buy another battery pack to swap it out really quickly, or you would take an existing USB-C cable and charge the battery bank. But again, we don't know how many watts the headset is using. It could be 20 watts, it could be 50 watts, it could be 100 watts. So you might end up needing like a super high-powered brick to charge up the battery pack fast enough so that you can use the headset for extended use. Apple claims it lasts all day as long as it's plugged in, which is kind of how iMacs work, honestly. My MacBook Pro also has all-day battery life if I leave it plugged in. Thanks for that, Apple. But yeah, the reason I say it's not just for big screen TVs that you can place anywhere or big monitors that you can put around your Mac is because this thing is also covered in cameras, and there's actually a dedicated button on the top that apparently is just for capturing something Apple calls spatial video. So it's like a 3D recorded video of whatever's in front of you with multiple angles and depth data, and then you can view it again with Apple Vision Pro, and then you can like look around objects as you play them back. So it's supposed to be a more immersive way to capture your surroundings, but I'd be very curious to see what those videos look like if you try to put them on any other device, which is why this thing is really, really challenging to market. That's why I'm so fascinated by the marketing of it, because I can't like give you a headset while you're watching this YouTube video. It's very easy for me to say, here's the changes in iOS 17, or here's the changes in macOS Sonoma, because you can visualize what it's like to have, icons and features on a screen, and I can demo them for you on this channel and you can see what it's like. But with Apple Vision Pro, I don't know like how you're gonna screen record. How do you capture your experience and then share it in YouTube form? What are YouTubers gonna do other than just put it on and film themselves wearing it? Which, by the way, I know Apple's known for this kind of mockery throughout the years. They got a lot of similar vibes when AirPods originally came out, but I gotta admit, this feels pretty freaking hilarious that they put a display on the outside, which I know I totally didn't believe. I thought that part of the report was ridiculous. There was no way they would do that. Never trust me, I guess, because they did it. You can actually see the user's eyes on the outside of the display so that it looks like you're looking through the headset, and apparently that only appears if the headset detects that someone else is in the room. So if someone walks up, then they'll show like, hey, I can see you, but you look just ridiculous. Like, it's insane that they're trying to pass this off of just like, oh, hey, how are you doing? It looks really unnatural and really bizarre, and I'm sorry, it just looks goofy. And I did not mock Apple for the AirPod stem back in 2016 when they unveiled that. I didn't think that looked too crazy. It's just like wearing normal headphones without the wire, but this doesn't look like anything. I guess it looks kind of like you're wearing ski goggles, but you have some kind of blue orbs going on top of your eyes. So good news is this headset does technically work without the needed assistance of an iPhone or a Mac, so it's not like your iPhone or your Mac is doing the heavy lifting and then just offloading the visuals onto this headset. It's its own independent computer with its own active cooling system at that, and Apple said that there will be like proprietary lenses from prescription makers so that if you wear glasses you can get your prescription size with the headset, but that's going to cost extra. It's not included. And of course, as all great Apple products do, this also has a digital crown on the other side so that you can choose to completely immerse yourself in a virtual world, which could be on the moon, it could be by a lake or something, or in the case of the Disney Plus demo that was at the event, you can be watching Mandalorian as if you're on Tatooine, but again, just by yourself. It's great that you can put TVs everywhere, but only you can see them. No one else is going to be able to. So, as someone who watches most movies and shows with my wife, this isn't going to be a great use case for it for me, but maybe if you're traveling a lot, I guess that's how Apple was somewhat pitching it with like FaceTime in Vision OS, which is when you have people just kind of appear on their screens around you, and you can have a screen capture to look at as you're doing it or whatever. But the weird part with the FaceTime demo was like, what does the other person see of you? Because you're wearing a headset and you don't have a mounted camera anywhere. Well, don't worry, Apple thought of that. So you take the headset off, first of all, right? And then you create a 3D version of yourself with the outward-facing LiDAR and camera sensors, and then they use machine learning algorithms to recreate this digital version of you that's supposed to be hyper-realistic, but it was still totally an uncanny valley. But, you know, they have your mouth motions being tracked and your eye motions being tracked, and they tried to make it look natural, but it was still kind of weird. I'd rather just not have a video feed if that was the option. So, very bizarre approach to FaceTime on your face, but they said that the straps on the back would be adjustable, and there's different sizes, and the lenses themselves are actually adjustable depending on the size of your face, so it should fit a wide number of people. They want to make sure no one feels excluded with Apple Vision Pro, other than the fact that it's only going to be in the US and it'll cost $3,500. But yeah, it won't be shipping until next year, so this is definitely a very, very early first look. And I will admit with Apple, it is by far the most technically complex and intricate device they've probably ever done. There's really complex displays on the inside, micro OLED, which they've never used before. They said 60 of these pixels can fit in the same space as one pixel does on an iPhone. So this is a super rich display. And then they've got a display on the outside to showcase your eyes, which makes so much sense. And then this external battery pack, and as far as I can tell, there's no internal battery. So once you run out, you definitely have to plug something into that module. And if you don't, then you're just gonna lose your progress. The whole thing's gonna shut down, I guess. So definitely don't wear this while driving or riding a bike or doing anything that's fast, because as soon as the battery runs out, it's basically just going to blind you. There's no way to look through it without power, which is a big issue if you are operating some kind of equipment, so don't do that. And I guess for a lot of people, the discussion we're all having right now, and this is my favorite part of Apple news, is getting your guys' opinion, is it's tricky to figure out what the market for this is. You know, I could understand with previous generation Apple products, you know, like the iPhone, okay? It's combining our iPods with our smartphones and just having this all-in-one encompassing device. Same thing with AirPods, right? It was like, okay, it's just headphones, but now they're wireless. You gotta charge them and they cost a little bit more, but it's nice to not have the wire. And with the Apple Watch, it was like, yeah, okay, we've had watches for, you know, centuries. This is not a brand new concept to have a timepiece on your wrist, but we just make it a little bit smarter. Okay, you have to charge it a bit more, but it's got a display and it can show you information and widgets at a glance. And it was a bit expensive at first, but over time we got used to it. Do you guys think we will eventually get used to a $3,500 headset? And this I don't really put in the same box as those other categories, other wearables per se, or other, you know, cheap, simple, pocketable technology. And I know a lot of us are probably thinking, well, this is just the first generation product, and in time it will get cheaper and more addressable. But keep in mind, all of these successful products Apple's made over the years, like the iPhone and the iPad and the Apple Watch and AirPods, they all started actually cheaper than what most of us are paying today. iPhone was $500 at first. Now most of us are paying $1,000. AirPods started at $170, and now most people get the Pros, which are like $250. Apple Watch started at $350, and now a lot of people are opting for the $800 Ultras, and the Series 7 and 8 start at, you know, $400, $500 for a lot of the more popular options. So the mindset of, oh, don't worry, in a couple of years this will only be $1,000, I don't think that really holds up with how complex of a piece of technology that is. I know there's certain economies of scale that allow you to lower prices with time, but this I don't think is going to scale up all that much. For one, because it's just in the US market, and Ming Chi Kuo has already told us how complicated this is to manufacture. They're expecting to build less than 1 million of them before they actually start shipping. So it's not a high volume product, so you don't really get that economies of scale, especially if it's just $3,500. And so far it's been fascinating to watch the YouTube community's response of, like, is there a market for it? Are you actually interested in spending that much money just so that you can have more windows around you to, I don't know, look at pictures, check notes, browse the web? Is this going to be more convenient and easier than just pulling pulling out your phone for doing a lot of that basic stuff, and where your phone may fall short is when you want like multiple big screens around your Mac or for replacement for your TV. But then it's even a niche of the Apple TV market because only one person can wear it at a time. At no point in the keynote did they showcase like, here's what you can do if you have two people wearing the headset and they could have a share play experience and both be watching the same movie. They didn't really showcase that. They just showcased like you watching the movie with other people virtually, and they're watching on a normal screen and you can see their faces, I guess, while you're doing share play. But yeah, this is by far one of the most fascinating and risky steps I've ever seen Apple take, you know, because there's platforms that have been around for a while like iOS, tvOS, and watchOS, but this is the first brand new platform that is requiring at minimum $3,500. That's before you get the prescription lenses for it. That's before you buy additional battery packs for it. And there's probably going to be different sizes for the headbands and everything, or different colors that you can mix and match. So this could easily become a $4,000 purchase for a lot of people, which definitely limits the market in my opinion. And on top of that, they didn't even really go much into specs other than it just has an M2 chip in it. They didn't say how much RAM it has, how much storage it has. They did say they made it easy to translate iOS apps over to this. So because it has an M2 chip, I assume it should be capable of running very, very popular iPhone apps by default. And yes, I do think third-party app support is going to be important, which is why they're announcing it now so that developers can kind of optimize for it and get ready for it. Like Disney has said, they're going to have support for it on day one. But I know Apple has done amazing things, especially when it comes to consumer spending habits, right? Like they've convinced a lot of us to drop thousands of dollars on phones every year because we use them and we appreciate them so much. Is this headset high quality enough and premium enough and enable enough functionality for people to justify spending $3,500 or $4,000 on something like this? I don't really know at this point. It's still too early to say. I know that there's been a lot of products Apple has debuted in the past that were ridiculed on their launch day, and then over time they got more popular, but I feel like most of those products were not like in the $3,500 price realm, and most of them had battery lives that lasted longer than 2 hours, you know? They were showcasing how you can watch movies on this thing on a plane and just kind of tune out everybody else around you, but if your battery life is 2 hours, you probably won't make it through a lot of flights. There's a lot of movies that you couldn't finish in 2 hours, so I guess you have to keep that power brick around so that you can charge this thing while you're on the flight. This is uncharted territory, in my opinion. I think it's a little bit too soon to know for sure if this is going to be a flop or a big success. My first impressions are pretty surprised by it, in case you're wondering if I plan on buying it. Definitely for review, but for personal use, no. I don't think if I was outside of the tech YouTube space, I could justify it. I think YouTubers will definitely justify it because they'll get to make lots of videos about it, but honestly, I still struggle to see how you're going to demo it. It's going to be really hard to show people what it's like to wear it. This is going to be one of those things that creates huge lines at Apple stores because everyone's going to want to try it and experience it for themselves, but how many headsets can they actually have? And with all that fabric soaking up all that sweat, how often are they going to have to clean it and then close it and say, okay, don't look at it right now? But I totally understand the leaks and rumors now about Apple's board being somewhat skeptical of this product. They're like, should we be doing this? It feels like the hardware is a little bit compromised, and maybe this could have been better if they left it internal and gave it a few more years until they could actually just have the battery pack integrated in the headset, maybe get some decent battery life out of this thing, but seems like they want to unveil it now so that they can ship it next year. And I really hope that they change their mind on the M2 chip thing, because 3nm Apple Silicon chips should be available later this year, which means an M2 chip on day one in 2024, that's a 2022 chip debuting on a $3,500 piece of equipment. I don't know, that just feels weird to me. And if they're being so quiet on the storage and RAM and all the other specs anyway, I would have just rather them not mention what chip is in it, other than I guess you could say the R1. But the good news is they're starting with the name Pro, so if it's Pro first and foremost, I think that kind of directly admits from the beginning that this is the high-end version of the hardware, and down the road there will be cheaper, more affordable options. Who knows how long that may be, but if Apple is looking for ways to cut costs, I would definitely drop the whole outward-mounted display thing. That seems like such a gimmick. If the person wearing the headset can see someone, because Apple showcased how when people step into the frame, they'll appear in your Vision OS so you can see when they arrive. If they start acknowledging you or looking at you, they'll say something. Like, I don't think you need a whole separate display showcasing these eyes on the outside. It just looks so unnatural. It looks so weird, and I don't think it's the same way as saying, well, AirPods look weird in your ears. Oh, that took some time, but we all got used to it. With this, I don't know if I could ever get used to looking at someone's eyes on a display that is on top of their eyes, right? Like, that's just a little bit bizarre. And like people have already said in the mixed reality headset space, there is a ton of like eye fatigue when your eyes are that close to a screen, and you can get sick with time and kind of get sick of having this giant, big, heavy thing weighing down on your face. So maybe it's good that the battery life's 2 hours, because you're gonna be done using that thing after 2 hours anyway and be like, okay, that's enough, I'll go back to reality now. But if that's the case, and it's only something you use a couple hours a day, will that justify spending the $4,000 for a lot of people? I don't think it'll be abundantly clear at first. This could end up being like AirPods Max, where it's really big and popular at first when the production capacity is low, but then over time it just turns into that, oh yeah, didn't I buy that thing? I guess I don't use it that much, do I? Or it could turn into, okay, I use this thing all the time and I'm hardly looking at reality anymore. I'm just looking at these displays. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, even if it is something that replaces all of our electronic devices, it does all the work of our phones and watches and replaces our Mac and all that, then I guess I'm terrified that in the future we're all just gonna wear these headsets all day, every day. That's kind of depressing, isn't it? But I don't think that's how Apple's looking at it, especially given all the great things they brought to the rest of their ecosystem today, which we'll save that for another video. But what do you guys think of Apple Vision Pro? Of it not really being that much of a gaming device. I mean, they showed that you can connect a PlayStation controller to it, but it's basically just playing a game on a big TV, but it just happens to be a virtual TV. Do you see yourself buying it in the future? You've got like 8 to 9 months to save up for it now. Are you impressed with the idea of being able to see everything around you? Or do you think this is gimmick territory? Do you think this will flop? Is it too expensive? All that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I'll see you in the next one.